Part 8. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 71. Nanjiang No. 3 Middle School, Summer Camp Team. City Defense Tank. Everyone, have something to eat. We'll be there in another hour. Zhou Lingwei took out 4 wartime instant rations and distributed them to the 3 of them. After tearing off the seal, a fragrance instantly filled the entire car, which was extremely tempting. It smells so good. Zhao Lin's eyes lit up. He chose a chef as his secondary profession. I thought that even if I couldn't become a soldier, I would still be able to gain skills in the future. These foods are carefully cultivated in the laboratory, using various seeds from the Eternal Tower, combined with some special plant-related professions. The left spiritual weapon raised the bag in his hand. What you have in your hands are ordinary rations, which are not much different from ordinary food. If it is a soldier's exclusive ration, you can go without eating for 3 days after eating it, and it can also improve the healing ability of wounds. Wow, is it so amazing? While a few people were chatting, Ye Bai tilted his head and looked out the window, his eyes blocked by the iron plate. During the previous journey, Ye Bai had always maintained this posture and rarely interrupted. In youth mode, Ye Bai knows everything about the outside world. His face was expressionless, and he secretly thought. We encountered many attacks along the way, and we were able to cope with them just by relying on the chariot. Strange, didn't it say that there was an ambush from the King of War? Where would it be? Ye Bai has been searching for the ambush King of War. Since the City Defense Department and others received the tip-off, it would naturally not be groundless. Moreover, once these geniuses enter the special training summer camp, the defense level there will be much stronger than that of tanks. It is said that the God of War is still in charge. The further you delay, the smaller the chance of a successful sneak attack. If you want to ambush these geniuses, this is the only chance left for the followers of the demon cult. You're so calm. Ye Bai was about to look away when a note popped up in front of his eyes. 217 kilometers southeast of the forward direction, 2 war kings are waiting to die. Please choose the removal plan, Tianli, Yingju, Lu Qingjian. Coming. Contrary to Ye Bai's expectation, it was not 1 war king who was ambushed, but 2. You really think highly of us? Ye Baixin calculated that if the 2 war kings broke out at the same time, they would attack the convoy with all their strength. They only need to focus on 1 or 2 tanks to cause heavy losses to the convoy. After a successful blow, the war king can withdraw and hide among the crowd again. You have to strike first and take advantage. Ye Bai is ready to shake people. Do it yourself? It is impossible to fight against the King of War, and it is impossible to fight on your own in this life. Only by shaking others can you barely live like this. Regardless of whether there is a risk of exposing your identity if you do it yourself. Most ordinary war kings have means to save their lives, and killing them once is not enough. Even if Ye Bai is fully stacked and ready to go, with the blessing of thunder and lightning, he can only have the ultimate output capability for a few dozen seconds. Lao Lu is also coming. Ye Bai thought for a while and gave up the idea of shaking Lu Qingjian. First, it is difficult to contact the other party. Secondly, Lu Qingjian is not smart after all. It would be embarrassing if he rushed forward and was killed in a one-on-one attack. After thinking about it, Ye Bai could only shake 1 person, Yingju. Ye Bai took out his mobile phone and typed a line of words on the screen. There is an ambush from the War King. Yingju's voice sounded in Ye Bai's ears. I can't take action. According to the internal rules of Shadow, Yingju cannot take action against enemies at the level of War Kings, as long as they do not pose a fatal threat to Ye Bai. Ye Bai deleted the words and re-entered them. Ye Bai, what if it's Lian gone? Shadow 9, Shadow's rules are rules. Why is this old man so rigid? Show off your SSS level shameless energy. Yabai thought for a while and typed another line of words. I have 100 squares of message board information on hand. Shadow 9. There's that guy's dark history on it. Yabai is willing to take risks. If this can't convince Yingju, then he can only think of other ways to sway people. That person, even if Yabai didn't name it, Yingju knew who it was. The most powerful nightmare. Among the three most powerful ones. Wilhen is too aloof and cold, Xiaoao is too mysterious. As for nightmares? Nightmare is so embarrassing. Regarding this, Yingju has a deep understanding of this. Lian looks at this person as being too bad, he might hide himself as the king of war and take action. To ensure nothing goes wrong, I must go out and investigate. Yingju said righteously. I'll lend you the forbidden curse shaft for a moment. Yabai nodded slightly, the forbidden curse shaft in his arms was taken away, and the shadow under his feet was slightly distorted. Yabai thought carefully about letting Yingju deal with the ambushed war king. First of all, Yabai repeatedly investigated the surrounding environment and determined that there was no ambush from the king of war or a higher level being. Secondly, Yabai has stacked 30 layers and is ready to go, and his combat status is full. The ordinary war king has no chance to deal with Yabai in a short time. At last, Yabai's eyes fell downwards, landing on Lu Sueki's shadow. In Yabai's field of vision, a Lolita with dark circles under her eyes was yawning, hiding in Lu Sueki's shadow. Shadow 99. After becoming a lone wolf, Lu Sueki was also assigned a shadow beside her. Yabai also didn't expect that a war god would be sent to protect Lu Sueki secretly. One of the minimum standards for the shadow level is god of war level combat power. Shadow 99 can be said to be the weakest shadow class, but he is still the god of war. In this way, even if Yingju temporarily withdraws, there will still be the guardian of the god of war near Yabai. When it comes to saving lives, Yabai has always been very good at it. On the highway, the motorcade roared past. The two demon sect war kings were sleeping underground like tortoises spending the winter, their auras constricted to the extreme. Only in this way can they escape all kinds of searches and hide the truth. When the convoy approaches, break out and attack. The road shook slightly, and the eyelids of a war king twitched, and he opened his thin eyelids, his eyes full of murderous intent. It's time to take action. The murderous aura underground was so strong that it was almost substantial, and in the darkness, the temperature dropped a lot. He was very satisfied with his partner's reaction and had a feeling that this ambush would be fruitful. Thinking of this, the war king from the third demon sect turned to look at his partner. Huh? Where is my partner? Are you looking for this? A rickety old man was holding a bloody human head in his hand, with black mist rolling around his body. I searched it, and he didn't look at it repeatedly, did you? The old man's voice was hoarse and unpleasant. Even the demon cult war king was in a daze for a moment when he just woke up and saw this miserable scene. What are you talking about? I don't understand what you are talking about. Who the hell are you? Don't come here. With that said, he turned around and wanted to run away. You can't stay in this damn place for even a second. Be good and obey. The black mist surged up, completely submerging the war king, blocking out the screams and everything else. After a few seconds, the black fog receded. This is not Lian gone. Yingju looked at the two corpses in front of him. We need to find someone to take the blame. With that said, he took out the forbidden curse shaft and released the forbidden curse printed on it. Burning silence all over the world. The terrifying flames engulfed the corpse, erupting with extremely powerful power and spreading to the surroundings. I don't know who the lucky one will be this time. Haha, I will seal your memory once and give you the credit of 2 war kings. This is a good deal. Yingju waited where he was. The war king should be coming soon to check out the situation. In the summer camp convoy. The moment burning silence in the world appeared, All tanks received an alarm. A War King level existence takes action. Enemy, not friend. The Zo spirit machine's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly tapped the tablet with his fingers, inputting 10 commands in a row. Sit tight, it's time to speed up. The steel plates on the periphery of the tank fell off directly, removing all unnecessary weight. The engine started at full power and even overclocked. Boom! The chariot rushed forward, its speed more than doubled, and it even jumped through space. Among the people in the car, Zhao Lin's face turned slightly pale, and the strong propulsion force pressed him firmly on the back of the chair. Lu Sueki was a little better, but the attack of a king-level enemy still made her feel a little frightened. Ye Bai was the only one who was still normal and even had the time to look out the window. Yingju succeeded. Hey, why is Lao Lu coming here to join in the fun? In Ye Bai's field of vision, a beam of extremely fast fire rushed towards Yingju. It was Lu Qingjian. According to the planned plan, all convoys are moving forward at full speed. The moment the alarm was sounded, an old man's violent roar came from the headsets of all the drivers. Li Er, follow me to meet the enemy. The old man's presence gave all the guards a reassurance. Unexpectedly, he was the secret escort during this trip. The peak battle king Lu Qingjian. The #1 battle king in Nanjiang City is a top-notch existence even in the southeast region. With him here, there will be no surprises. Lu Qingjian was closer to the target and rushed over first. Is this, burning the whole world? Lu Qingjian's green flame swayed all over his body, and he carefully inspected the scene. The power of this person's attacks is only slightly inferior to that of me. He is a war king who is proficient in the fire element. Lu Qingjian became more motivated to fight, looking for traces of the enemy. He found no enemy, only 2 burnt corpses and a cloud of black mist. Master Yingju. I haven't seen you for 30 years, but your figure is so familiar, as if I often see you in my dreams. Lu Qingjian was surprised and happy. If Yingju took action, the convoy would be absolutely safe. The question is, why is Master Yingju here? Is he guarding some genius? Lu Qingjian has too many questions. Master Yingju, what exactly happened here? There was a sigh in the black fog. No nonsense. Xiao Lu, just go through the process. What process? Black mist surged up, and Lu Qingjian's vision went dark and he lost consciousness. After 30 seconds, Li Er arrived at the battlefield. Old Lu, please say something. As soon as he arrived at the battlefield, he saw the mess everywhere, and there were signs of burning silence. Sihai taking action. Lao Lu defeated the enemy so quickly. Pain. Lu Qingjian took a breath, opened his eyes, and saw Li Erhe at the scene. Familiar memories came to mind. The 2 thieves were burned to death by me. They didn't expect me to get close so quickly. Lu Qingjian briefly talked about the battle process. Lao Lu, you are so fierce, you actually killed 2 people in a row. When Li Er mentioned the word, Lu Qingjian asked in surprise. How do you know that my granddaughter's talent has awakened for the 2nd time? Li Er, you have enough. This old bastard, I have heard him talk about the 2nd awakening of my granddaughter's talent hundreds of times. Now, the Qingyan War King's opening remarks when meeting people are, have you heard the story of my granddaughter's 2nd awakening of her talent? There was nothing wrong with the battle scene, and there were indeed traces of Lu Qingjian's attack. Li Er glanced around for the last time and asked casually, Old Lu, are you not injured? Injured? Lu Qingjian sneered, I'm full of blood, how could I be injured? His expression suddenly froze, as if he thought of something, and he quickly raised his head and held his forehead. Oh, don't tell me, my head hurts a little. The enemy may be soul-based, too cunning. Li Er, you have to testify for me, this is considered a public injury. Li Er. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjiao Old Thief. Chapter 72. Nanjiang No. 3 Middle School, Summer Camp Team. After an enemy suspected to be a war king appears, the forward speed of the tank increases to the extreme. It was okay at first. Under the control of Zhou's spiritual weapon, the chariot moved forward smoothly. But after a few minutes of driving at top speed, black smoke suddenly appeared from the front of the car. "Senior! There's smoke." Zhao Lin grabbed the handrail above his head and looked forward with a hint of horror. "Don't panic." Zhou Lingmao was very calm and said unusually calmly. "It's not a big problem, don't panic." The black smoke became thicker and thicker, beginning to fill every inch of space, and the choking smell hit his face. "Breeze cover." Ye Bai raised his hand, and an invisible windshield was propped up to block the black smoke for several people. Zhou Lingzi glanced at Ye Bai in surprise and casually praised. "Without chanting or using a staff, your wind affinity must be very high." After saying that, Zhou Lingwei focused on maintenance again and sent out teams of nanorobots to check the engine condition. "Good news, the engine is only half broken." "Zhao Lin. What kind of good news is this? I told you before that this is an experimental version, and it's normal to have some surprises." Before Zhou's spirit machine could finish speaking, another series of explosions came from the front. "What's going on?" "Well, the engine is scrapped, it's not a big problem." As he spoke, a toolbox appeared in the left psychic hand and he began to assemble a strange device. After a while, she distributed the 3 assembled balls to Ye Bai and others, and told them, "The engine is scrapped. According to the scheduled procedure, the random teleportation array under your seat will be activated. This ball can block tens of millions of damage, so you should use it for self-defense. Time is tight and there is only so much that can be done." Before Zhou's spirit machine finished speaking, the teleportation array under the 3 seats was activated. The white light flashed and the figure disappeared. Zhou's spirit machinery, who stayed in place, had a very calm expression. She walked out of the scope of the breeze hood, passed through the thick black smoke, and arrived at the front half of the carriage. "How are the 3 of them doing?" The middle-aged man who had previously held the list stood at the front of the bus and asked. The bus's engine was intact, and the entire chariot was still moving at high speed. As for the black smoke that Ye Bai and the others saw, it was made of special smoke bombs. Even bumps, explosions, etc. are simulated. The final transmission is also part of the plan. Apparently, Ye Bai and the others entered an exercise without knowing it. In order to observe the most realistic reactions of these students in dangerous situations and increase our understanding of them. Zhou Lingmao muttered. "Zhao Lin has an impetuous temperament and can't calm down. Maybe because of his poor talent, he doesn't have much desire to improve his strength, but he is very motivated and has his own ideas." Lu Sueki was very quiet along the way. Even if she encountered danger, she could quickly adjust to her condition. Having said this, Zhou's spirit machine paused for a moment. When the War King attack alarm was issued, she looked specifically at Ye Bai. Looking at her posture, if an accident happened, she might stop in front of Ye Bai. "By the way, the canary on her shoulder feels a bit dangerous to me. It may be the infancy of a War King level pet. Was it a gift from Qingyan War King?" The middle-aged man shook his head. "The summoned beast is Lu Sueki's own. Her talent has awakened for the second time, S level." "What? There is no record in the file." Zhou Lingwei was a little surprised. He didn't expect Lu Sueki to hide so deeply. "Her real file is S level encrypted and cannot be viewed with your permission." Then why do you tell me?" Zhou Lingzi didn't understand. Shouldn't such a secret be hidden? Thanks to her grandfather, all the war kings around the world now know that Lu Sueki's talent has awakened for the second time. The middle-aged man snorted disdainfully. "What's so great? My grandson Wang Zheng was S level when he first awakened." Am I showing off everywhere like Lukinjian? Zolingwei, you old guys, enough is enough. It's as if no one is an S-level talent. The middle-aged man following the car, without showing off his appearance, turned out to be a war king. Okay, you still have one most important person you haven't commented on. The middle-aged man looked at Zo's spirit machine, very interested in the answer to this question. Yeah, bye, what do you think? Let me remind you, Lukinjian is very optimistic about Yebai. From my understanding of this old guy, he should think that Yebai's future achievements may be higher than Lusweki's. Is a C-level talent higher than an S-level talent? Could it be that Yebai also awakened for the second time? Not everyone's talent can be awakened a second time. Even if Yebai saw Zhaolin as a fool, there was nothing he could do to help him awaken for the second time. Zo's spirit machine thought for a moment and shook his head. I can't understand Yebai. He didn't seem to be very interested in anything, and he didn't panic at all when danger came. The time was too short for me to see anything, he was an unsolvable mystery. If it were just like this, Lukinjian wouldn't think so highly of him. The middle-aged man called up 3 projections. On the projections, it was the talented trio of CCF. It doesn't matter. This exercise has just begun. We still have enough time to observe. Would it be too much? Zo's spirit machine looked at the projection with some sympathy. The 3 of them were all transported to the wilderness, dozens of kilometers apart from each other, surrounded by barren mountains and rivers, and there may even be unknown risks. In the past, summer camps, even if they had drills, would not go to this extent. If you can't overcome even this difficulty, there is no need to waste resources on special training. The middle-aged man's face was as cold as frost, and he looked at the 3 people coldly. The first half of this transportation operation is fishing, in order to let more demon believers emerge and clean up the inside. The second half is a test for these students. From the moment they stepped onto the bus, the special training had already begun. Speaking of this, the middle-aged man's voice softened a little. Spiritual equipment, you also entered the summer camp special training and participated in such exercises. Your lowest achievement in the future is the King of War. No matter what level you grow to, I hope you will never forget the first lesson that exercise taught you. Zolingzi straightened his back, looked extremely serious, and said word by word. Spiritual weapons, don't dare forget them. The first lesson that everyone must experience. It is also an unforgettable first lesson. Brush. On a slope, white light flashed across. Yebai's figure appeared out of thin air and stood on the slope. You were teleported to a battlefield site. This is the safest place on the entire planet, there will be no threats. Battlefield ruins, safe. Yebai casually activated the device given by Zo's spirit machine and opened the protective shield. If I read it correctly before, they are conducting an exercise. The black smoke should have blocked their sight, but it could not block the eye of insight. Yebai was just acting together with Zolingzi and others. Besides, after Yingju killed the 2 war kings, he quickly returned to Yebai. Yebai, sense of security max upward arrow. If this was an exercise, wouldn't the previous transportation process be fishing? Yebai recalled that this was just a siege operation jointly carried out by many parties. Now that the human race's front line is tight, these demon sect believers are causing trouble in the rear. It would be great to be able to catch some people out and clean them out, as it would greatly relieve the pressure faced by the human race. But, what should we do now? Yebai looked around and didn't notice any danger. Near the slope, it is surrounded by forests and covered with green plants. The environment is extremely good and there is no sign of pollution. Since it is an exercise, there should be a mission. Stand high and see far. Lightness technique. Yebai pretended to add a buff to himself, and then tried to climb a tree. With his agility attribute, he can jump up in one go. Standing on the top of the tree, without the obstruction of the trees, Ye Bai's field of vision immediately broadened. In the distance, a thin and pointed building towered into the clouds, attracting Ye Bai's attention. That is. Ye Bai seemed to have thought of something and his face was shocked. Tower of Eternity. The location of the summer camp's special training was actually near the Eternal Tower. Just when Ye Bai discovered the truth, the ball in his arms levitated automatically and made a mechanical sound. Please pay attention to all students participating in the summer camp special training. Please pay attention to all students participating in the summer camp special training. Someone is broadcasting. Please arrive at the designated location to report before 2100 hours tonight. Those who fail to arrive after the deadline will be deemed to have given up. After giving up, you will not be allowed to re-enter the summer camp special training list within 3 weeks. Attention! You may be attacked by test machinery during the exercise. After being defeated, you must stay in place for 15 minutes. The broadcast was repeated several times and eventually fell silent. A new picture appeared on the ball in front of Ye Bai. 6 o'clock. Distance, 180.65 kilometers. Time, 17:24. Countdown, 3 hours, 35 minutes, and 46 seconds. Let's go. Putting the ball back into his pocket, Ye Bai looked around again, and after confirming the direction of Zhaolin and Lu Sueki, he jumped down from the tree. Go in the direction of 6 o'clock. Ye Bai looked around from time to time, exploring his surroundings. He seemed to understand the true nature of this exercise. The soldier buried here is as young as you, and the girl he loved did not wait for his return. This war king is nothing special, he just pulled 3 monsters and blew himself up before he died. He didn't know how to read and couldn't even write his name, but he wanted to keep a good home, and he did it. The further he advanced, the more serious Ye Bai's expression became and his pace became slower. This is near the Eternal Tower. It is also the beginning of the invasion of the Abyss Plain, the front line of the Blue Star battlefield. The purgatory battlefield of 30 years of catastrophe, a place where countless seniors fought and fought. According to incomplete statistics, the human casualties in the land under Ye Bai's feet alone are in the hundreds of millions. It took 30 years of heavy casualties before the human race, led by the strongest, defeated the monsters and drove them back to the abyss. 60 years have passed, the stars have changed, and the world has changed dramatically. This battlefield has been preserved, undeveloped and without any action. Instead, it was preserved as it was and closed to the outside world. This is a former battlefield, and also, the place where countless heroic souls' graves are located. During the 30 years of catastrophe, the human race had an unwritten iron law. Where he died in battle, he was buried. Every inch of soil beneath your feet is your home. Since it is a home, it can bury heroic spirits. I protect rivers and mountains with my flesh and blood, even if I turn into corpses and bones, my soul will not be safe. There were graves on both sides of the road. Ye Bai stood on the roadside, bowed slightly and said softly, "Junior Ye Bai, I'm bothering all the seniors. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information." Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 73. More than 100 kilometers away from the Eternal Tower. Ye Bai advanced slowly along the forest path, his steps were light and he basically made no sound. When he reached a fork in the road, the shadows on the soles of his feet twisted. Yingju unexpectedly showed up unexpectedly. "Boy, I need to remind you of something." Yingju's tone was very serious, not as lazy as before. "The area you're about to enter next is very different." Listening to Yingju's reminder, Ye Bai looked forward. Ahead, eternal forest. The most tragic battlefield of Blue Star Battlefield, where countless heroic souls sleep peacefully. The most powerful nightmare paid a huge price and changed the rules of the world. The dead human heroes have obsessions attached to the relics. When the destined person arrives, the obsessions will be awakened. Defeat the relic, obtain obsession recognition, and can take it away. Yingju repeated the same message to Ye Bai. Senior, if I understand correctly, everyone can only take away one thing, right? That's normally the case. Yingju patiently explained. These relics themselves are very ordinary, but due to the transformation of the most powerful nightmare, they have become high-grade equipment. Each person can only take away one piece of equipment from here. At the same time, many obsessions are hatred of monsters, and they are more inclined to choose people with high talent and high potential. Listening to Yingju's introduction, Ye Bai nodded slowly. If this is the case, people with high-level talents face multiple powerful choices. People with too little talent may achieve nothing. Generally speaking, this kind of drill is a graduation drill after the special training of the summer camp. Yingju said with emotion, looking at it like this, Project Dawn should have been launched. Project Dawn. Yes, Project Dawn is also known as the Darkest Plan. Someone at the summer camp will explain the details to you. Yingju brought the topic back on track. The point I want to tell you is that because of your situation, ahem, you know it in your heart. Yingju knew Ye Bai's true identity, and the two of them never broke through the last layer of window paper. There will be a lot of equipment that will actively choose you, or in other words, all equipment will not reject you. As for what to choose, you decide for yourself. Ye Bai asked, where are the two strongest men before? Wilhen took a sword, and Xiaoao took a set of bells and drums. Yingju turned into black mist again and sank into Ye Bai's shadow, leaving behind a sentence. I will help you cover up the movement of your equipment, so you don't have to worry. Thank you, Senior. After this is over, remember to give me the photo. Ye Bai. This old guy is still thinking about the dark history of the most powerful man's nightmare. After figuring out his situation, Ye Bai carefully arranged his clothes, took a deep breath, and took a step forward. When Ye Bai crossed a certain line, the eternal forest that had been silent for nearly 30 years seemed to come alive in an instant. Countless birds started up and circled over the eternal forest. A white cloud slowly fell and covered the sky above the forest, as if it was blocking something. There is a shadow everywhere in the four directions of east, south, west and north. When the strange movement in the eternal forest appeared, the shadow immediately noticed the abnormality and there was movement at the same time. Purple smoke rose, and a young man wearing black and purple clothes appeared, looking in a certain direction, where Ye Bai was. He came. The young man raised his hand, and there was a number printed on his right glove, 7. Shadow 7. The blue shadow cast by the sky on the water surface wrinkled, and the sound of water spirit came out. Isn't it too early this time? Shadow 6. The bamboo forest swayed, green shadows appeared, and the voice was as childish as a child's. He is right. Only when the most powerful seeds enter the eternal forest will such a change occur. Shadow 5. The shade of the trees slowly shifted with the sunshine, and a green shadow was mixed in, and the voice was a little sad. History keeps repeating itself. Shadow 4. The shadow level powerhouses in Shadow 4, 5, 6 and 7, appeared at the same time. They have only one mission, to guard the eternal forest. This was the former front-line battlefield. If the abyssal plane wanted to counterattack, this would also be the first choice for a breakthrough. Only 4 people sit on the ground, forming the only line of defense to intercept and kill the monsters that stray into Blue Star. This shows how terrifying the strength of the 4 people is. When they appear at the same time, either the human race has reached its most critical moment, or this is the current situation. The most powerful seeds have entered the eternal forest. Yinglu was the first to speak. The one protecting Shura is Lao Ba or ninth brother. Everyone looked at Ying Si. They had never taken the initiative to inquire about this information. Brother ninth, Lao Ba has something to do and has gone to the abyss. Ying Qi looked in a certain direction and said coldly, "Want to take a look? He's going to die." Shadow 5 laughed like a barbell. "Xiao Qi, you are still too young. The reason why ninth brother is that he only wants to be ninth brother and does not want to be the eldest brother. I explain it this way, do you understand?" A cold light flashed in the forest, and half of the short blade was pulled out by Ying Qi. "I haven't seen fifth brother for a long time, and I wanted to see if I could mention my ranking." Ying Qi snorted coldly. "After all, it took less than 10 years to become the seventh shadow. I am not very satisfied with this speed." As if hearing some joke, Yingwu burst into that strange laughter again. "Xiao Qi, if you were really capable, you wouldn't have turned into a shadow now." This sentence seemed to touch Ying Qi's pain point, and he pulled out the short blade again. Brush. The bamboo forest is constantly swaying, and the green shadows are scattered. Enough. The fourth figure, who was the highest ranked, the strongest and the most senior, roared. "The most powerful seeds are here, don't you think we are the only ones who have noticed?" The four of them looked at the sky at the same time, and saw a white cloud. Except for this white cloud, the sky is clear and cloudless. The four people unanimously came up with the answer, the most powerful Xiaoao. Among the three strongest men, Xiaoao is responsible for guarding the Eternal Tower. The Eternal Forest is under the Eternal Tower, and Xiaoao can see it when he lowers his head. The arrival of Shura naturally cannot escape the opponent's eyes. This white cloud is the free will. It's all gone. After saying that, a wisp of green smoke dissipated, and Ying Si was the first to leave. Ying Qi snorted coldly, stuffed the short blade back, and turned into purple smoke and left. The shadow came with a lightness and walked quietly, and the blue shadow disappeared into the water waves. Only Shadow 5 was left in place. When the other three people left, the bamboo forest shook violently, and the bamboo leaves fell like rain, leaving only the bare bamboos in place. A whisper came from the green shadows in the bamboo forest. "Xiao Qi has become stronger again." As expected of him, he was known as the monster closest to the most powerful person 10 years ago. "I'm really looking forward to it. When Xiao Qi and Shura meet, will there be a fight?" The bamboo forest fell into silence again, and there was no more sound. Eternal Forest. As soon as Ye Bai walked into the forest, he immediately heard a familiar call. "Ba Bai, this way, I'm over here." Zhao Lin stood next to a tree and waved to Ye Bai. "Where did the fruit come from? Why are you standing there?" Ye Bai approached and found Zhao Lin chewing a green oil fruit. "I'm defeated by the test machine. I'm going to have to stay here for 15 minutes. Zhao Lin took out a fruit from his pocket and threw it to Ye Bai, then pointed to the tree next to him. "This fruit comes from the tree. Eating it can help you feel energetic. It's a good thing. I'll pick some more for you later." On the outskirts of the Eternal Forest, it is normal to have such rare fruits. Ye Bai looked at the tree and said casually, "Oh, the remains of an Abyss Demon King are buried under this tree, so the fruit can increase the spirit." "What?" Zhao Lin stopped chewing, spit out the food residue, and asked doubtfully. "Dabai, how did you know? It says yes on it." "Where is it? Why didn't I see it?" Zhao Lin scanned the trees and found no explanation. Ye Bai winked at Shadow, but Ying Ju showed no reaction. Finally, lines of writing appeared on the side of the tree, recording the story of the tree. "It really is." After Zhao Lin read the words on the tree, he angrily threw the fruit on the ground and smashed it to pieces. He also snatched Ye Bai's fruits back and smashed them together. Bah, even dogs won't eat this kind of thing. Zhao Lin took a bottle of water to rinse his mouth, looking very angry. The monster war king from the Abyss Plane, after invading Blue Star, first killed 2 human war kings, and then was besieged and died here, causing huge casualties to the human race. Eventually, it becomes fertilizer for trees. Zhao Lin could not express his disdain in words for such an existence. After doing all this, Zhao Linyu couldn't understand his hatred. Ahem, Dabai, help me look out. With that said, Zhao Lin began to unbutton his belt. Yebai. Turning his back, Yebai heard the sound of water flowing behind him. For a moment, Yebai seemed to be back in the high school bathroom. I'm ready. Zhao Lin accurately released the water, and even did not forget to invite Yebai. Would you like to try it too? It will relieve your anger. No, there's no need for that. Yebai returned seriously. I'll leave mine to the devil. Shadow 9. You guys are just chatting, could you please move your body first and move your shadow? There is water, it's coming. Repaying kindness with hatred is a yes. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 74. Eternal Forest, Periphery. Zhao Lin remained where he was, the countdown of the ball in his hand flashing. Countdown, 2 hours, 58 minutes, and 36 seconds. Distance, 174.61 kilometers. Dabai, why don't you leave first? Zhao Lin still had to wait in place for more than 10 minutes before he could move forward. It takes 3 hours and is close to 180 kilometers. It's enough to finish the run itself. If we encounter the test machine again and delay the time, this special training will be in vain. It's not okay to end the opportunity you finally fought for before it even started. Zhao Lin pointed forward and said seriously. You go first, I have wind stepping / and I am a warrior, so I am definitely much faster than you. When the punishment time is over, I will go find you. Yebai hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. Good. As he said that, he stepped forward, and the shadow moved with him, escaping the disaster. Zhao Lin did not forget to remind, be careful with the testing machine. New. Yebai's figure disappeared into the jungle. What Zhao Lin didn't know was, the rules of the Eternal Forest are very special. Here, if you can get the recognition of your obsession and successfully harvest the relics, the relic will take you directly through the entire Eternal Forest. In other words, the 180-kilometer cross-country distance is not the final assessment for the students. The real test is the awakened obsession, the relic that needs to be overcome. If you look at it this way, the emergence of testing machines is actually another kind of screening. Yebai recalled the rules, and the purpose of the entire exercise clearly emerged in his mind. To complete the exercise, you must pass through the Eternal Forest. In the Eternal Forest, if an obsession is awakened, the testing machine will appear and leave the students where they are, waiting for the next test. However, the deeper you go into the Eternal Forest, the stronger your obsession becomes. The higher the grade of the relic, the harder it is to gain recognition. The relationship between obsession and genius seeds is a mutual choice. The obsession is to select a genius seed with more potential, and the genius seed wants a more powerful relic. That is to say, the more talented people are, the farther they can advance in the Eternal Forest. Zhao Lin only has sea-level talent, so he is extremely lucky to be able to awaken his obsession at the outermost level. The warrior who once had sea-level talent spent 3 days and 3 nights in the Eternal Forest, but failed to awaken any obsession. Thinking of this, Yebai looked back. Hey, Zhao Lin got into a fight with a long knife. Yes, if it can be recognized, it will be a handy weapon. Withdrawing his gaze, Yebai continued to move forward. Behind him, more than a dozen pieces of equipment were suspended in mid-air, following Yebai quietly. Every time there is an additional piece of equipment, Ye Bai will bow slightly towards the other party, which is both a thank you and an apology. Thank you for your recognition. Sorry, I need to go deeper. These equipment just followed Ye Bai, neither far nor close, maintaining a fixed distance. Their existence is obscured by a shadow, making it difficult for others to see clearly. On the outskirts of the eternal forest, not far from Ye Bai, Lu Sueki's face was serious and she looked forward. The canary stood on her shoulder, combing its feathers. Xiao Jin, my grandfather said that the eternal forest is an extremely special place. After entering, if you dare to be dishonest. The old man said that if there was nothing else at home, 5 million doses of Wandu powder would be enough. Canary instantly became petrified, her whole body began to tremble, and every feather was filled with fear. Okay, I won't scare you anymore, just be quiet and everything will be fine. This is the safest place for the entire human race. I didn't expect that the drill would bring us here. I don't know how Ye Bai and the others are doing. After speaking, Lu Sueki began to take things from the storage space and place them neatly on the ground. Fruit plate, food, 2 bottles of soju, a pack of old brand cigarettes, etc. After placing everything, Lu Sueki took a few steps back, with a solemn look on her face, bowed again, and stood up. Lu Sueki, a descendant of the Lu family in Nanjiang, has met all the seniors. In the forest beneath her feet, 46 members of the Nanjiang Lu family were buried, including 2 war kings, 7 war generals, and 37 war soldiers. 46 names are engraved on the inscriptions in the Lu family ancestral hall. The eternal forest is of special significance to the Lu family. Lu Sueki's first task during this trip is not to harvest relics, but to worship her ancestors. Grandpa Kinjao, my grandfather asked me to bring you a message. He said that he is about to become a god of war. He feels that the signs of breakthrough have become more and more obvious recently. He asked you to smoke less down there. This stuff is harmful to your health. Following Lu Sueki's thoughts, several objects buried in the soil were awakened deep in the eternal forest, emitting different lights. Lu Sueki, the outermost person, felt something in her heart and looked forward. Is this, letting me go? Lu Sueki did not leave immediately. Instead, after worshipping the 46 ancestors of the Lu family, she bowed again and again before leaving with heavy steps, heading to the depths of the eternal forest to find the relics that called her. The canary on her shoulder was still trembling. It wasn't because of Lu Sueki's previous threats. But it can feel that in this forest, an extremely terrifying existence is nearby. A terrifying existence that makes its soul tremble. Deep in the eternal forest. Master Ju, can you still hold on? Behind Ye Bai, darkness was overwhelming, covering the sky and the sun. Tens of thousands of pieces of equipment were suspended in the air, following Ye Bai and refusing to leave. Many of these equipment are relics of the King of War, and even relics of the God of War. Half of the arrows were covered in rust, but they could emit an extremely sharp edge. Even if the War King stares for a long time, his eyes will hurt and tears will flow out. A certain War King's advancement was interrupted, and before he died, he shot a shocking arrow, killing 2 demon war gods. Even if Yingju tried to cover up the quasi-god of war relic, it would be very difficult for him to do so. These relics are attached to the obsessions of the heroic spirits during their lifetime, and were transformed by Nightmare using the rules, greatly improving their strength. The eternal forest is their home ground again. In other words, Yingju covering up the god of war equipment is equivalent to covering the whereabouts of a god of war. And there were 9 pieces of such equipment following Ye Bai. Boy, you're making a bit of a fuss. Yingju's voice was a little labored. The first 2 guys are not as capable as you. Oh. Ye Bai keenly captured a piece of information. When the first 2 strongest men entered the eternal forest, was Yingju also following them? What were they doing at that time? Is this the time for gossip? Yingju couldn't wait to jump out and help Ye Bai clear his mind. Figure out the situation, asshole. You've only gone less than 1/10 of the 9 pieces of God of War equipment. When you get to the deepest point, I'm afraid the obsession of the entire forest will come to life. Yingju was startled by his guess. If such a commotion really occurs, Yingju's own strength alone will definitely not be able to cover it up for long. In this forest alone, hundreds of war gods were buried. By then, Ye Bai's identity is at risk of being exposed. Yingju can't seal the memories of everyone in the forest. What's more, a special place like the Eternal Forest. Those demon gods in the Abyss Plane will stare at this place with one eye open even if they are sleeping. As for shaking people. Shadow 4, 5, 6, 7. There are indeed 4 war gods who sit in the Eternal Forest. But before Shura obtained the God of War level strength, except for the most powerful people and the 4 Yingju people, no one can know Ye Bai's true identity. The same is true for the growth paths of the top 2 strongest men. Without the strength of a God of War, any chance of his identity being exposed would lead to death. Wilhen appeared on the front line for the first time, and the demon god from the Abyss Plane came in his true form. He was crazy and wanted to kill Wilhen directly. Yingqi had suggested before that he wanted to take a look at Shura. Yingwu retorted on the spot. If you dare to go, you will die. Killed by some old monster that has been hiding in the shadows for hundreds of years. As for Yingwu's words, no one among the 4 war gods on the scene refuted. They knew in their hearts that Brother Ninth was not only capable of doing such a thing, but he also really knew how to do it. Yingju accompanied the rise of the most powerful nightmare, and protected the path of Wilhen and Xiaoao successively. The blood of the strong man on his hands is more than the 4 people combined. He is by no means the grandpa next door, but a ruthless executioner, a nightmare for his enemies. Yingju spoke again. Boy, if you want to keep going deeper, you'd better go full speed ahead. Even if all the God of War obsession is awakened and I try my best to help you cover it up, you can still cover it up for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is enough for you to pick one item. After listening to Yingju's words, Ye Bai was silent for a moment. It can only be the. If it continues, Yingju's consumption will only increase, and in the end, it may not even last a minute. It's better to take advantage of Yingju's remaining strength, rush to the end with all his strength, and win the battle quickly. Ye Bai took a deep breath, put on the lone wolf mask, clasped his fists in salute, and said in a deep voice. Excuse me. The next second, he left an afterimage on the spot and rushed into the depths of the Eternal Forest. Brush. The frightened birds fled in all directions, and countless obsessions were awakened at the same time, and they all joined the team following Ye Bai, converging into a steel torrent. Above the blue sky, there are white clouds. He is still watching. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 75. Eternal Forest. The strong wind passed by, leaving no trace on the grass. As a 3-series Skywrath mage, wind, fire, and thunder, Ye Bai's wind spells are twice as effective. Wind Fury superimposes the lightness technique, and combined with Wind Stepping Slash, leaves everything around him behind. Ye Bai increased his speed to the extreme. Even so, the torrent of steel behind him grew stronger. As Ye Bai continued to deepen, God of War equipment appeared one after another, following behind Ye Bai. From 9 items at the beginning, it has increased to 36 items now. Ye Bai took the time to glance back, and saw 36 glowing pieces of equipment rushing to the front. Each piece is extraordinary and diverse, making it dazzling to see. They will also collide with each other, just like the guests on the flower boat competing for the top spot. Yes, Ye Bai had this strange feeling. All these equipments wanted to be taken away by Ye Bai, and the competition with each other was fierce and full of gunpowder. Sonorous. The sound of the collision of gold and stone suddenly sounded, echoing endlessly in the eternal forest. All the equipment behind Yabai slowed down for a moment, as if the network was stuck. Brush. A cold light pierced the sky, and a bronze sword rushed to the front of all the equipment, less than half a meter away from Yabai. Heavenly King Sword. Yingju exclaimed, "How is this possible?" His voice was full of doubts, and he was particularly confused about what was happening in front of him. Yabai ran away while answering Yingju. "I don't think it's appropriate either. I am a mage after all. Which mage have you ever seen carrying a sword into battle? A mage who uses a sword is still called a mage." Yingju snorted coldly, gritted his teeth and asked, "Boy, who was the most powerful person you encountered in the soldier test before? What does this have to do with swords?" Yabai was very confused and still answered, "Wilhen." "That's right." Yingju sighed and quickly explained. When Wilhen entered the eternal forest, all the sword-related equipment in the forest woke up and appeared next to Wilhen. This heavenly king sword originally belonged to a heaven-reaching war god. After his death in battle, he stayed in the eternal forest and never woke up. He also woke up that day. "The heavenly king sword has awakened, why are you still here?" Yabai seemed to have guessed something and asked. "Wilhen didn't choose the heavenly king sword." "Yes, Wilhen, he just grabbed the nearest sword." Yingju recalled. Facing the overwhelming flying swords, Wilhen picked up one and said, "I have a sword, which is enough to kill the enemy." Later, Wilhen went to the front line with his sword and killed gods and demons with one sword. After listening to Wilhen's story, Yabai couldn't help but sigh. "Second brother is very good at it?" Yingju rolled his eyes and explained. "The heavenly king sword was not chosen, probably out of reluctance. Since you have fought against the Wilhen projection, it is reasonable for it to appear in this world. The Tongtian god of war is the most extreme existence among the gods of war, and the weapons they use in battle are absolutely extraordinary. To put it bluntly, the heavenly king sword is one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the eternal forest." Before Yingju finished speaking, there was another loud noise. Boom! A black shadow flew out, followed closely behind the heavenly king sword. It was a dark stone slab, exuding infinite evil energy, and it was on par with the heavenly king sword. Yabai turned around and took another look. "This heavenly god of war is actually not dead. Shush, keep your voice down, all the demon gods know the secret." "Good guy," Yabai called him a good guy. "There are actually strong people in the human race who fake their own deaths? Is this a script from the great emperor, where you kill the enemy by cheating yourself?" Since the senior is not dead, Yabai will not consider this black slate. What if the seniors jump out of the coffin and find that the equipment that originally belonged to them is with someone else? A large NTR will be on site. Inappropriate, inappropriate. Boy, hurry up. Yingju heard the third loud noise, and another remnant of the god of war appeared in the world. With the equipment of an ordinary god of war, Yingju would already have a hard time covering up the movement, let alone the god of war. "Receive." Yabai withdrew his gaze and continued to move forward. He always felt that something was calling him in the deepest part of the eternal forest. Crossing the grass, crossing the stream, and passing through the bushes, looking for the call, Yabai rushed to the deepest place. Eternal forest, east, misty purple air. In the purple air, Yingqi stood on a boulder and looked into the deepest part of the eternal forest. "Azura, Azura." He repeated the name, memories flashing through his eyes from time to time. 10 years ago, Yingqi awakened his SS-level talent, rose like a meteor, and disappeared like a meteor. No one knew that the talented boy who was known as the closest to the strongest has now become a member of the Shadow. Still Shadow level, rank 7th. In 10 years, even if it were Xuemeng, he wouldn't be able to achieve this level. Who hasn't been a boy genius? With a cold snort, Yang Qi's eyes were filled with unwillingness. Back then, I entered the eternal forest, and 6 relics of the god of war awakened. Boom! There was another loud noise in the forest. The 7th tone. The 7th item must be Shura. Yang Qi looked down at his short blade, which was a relic he took away from the eternal forest. The previous owner was also a sky-reaching war god. He killed more than 10 demon war gods with this short blade and had a remarkable record. Unfortunately, when he broke into the Eternal Tower, he was seriously injured, and there was no hope of treatment, and he died soon. Rejecting the suggestion of the strongest man to extend his life, the owner of the short blade dragged his seriously wounded body into the abyss alone. When Wu Hen arrived, only this short blade was left at the scene. A medium-sized abyssal plain was completely slaughtered, with not a single living creature left. The seriously injured Tongtian war god's life and death are unknown, and his whereabouts are unknown. Finally, the short blade was brought back to the eternal forest and passed on to Shadow 7. It doesn't matter. Yang Qi stroked the short blade with his fingertips and whispered. My sword and I are the strongest. I lost once and I won't lose a second time. Shura, I'm waiting for the day when you become the god of war. The eternal forest, the deepest part. Ye Bai finally stopped. A giant monument 1,000 meters high appeared in front of him. It was shrouded in black cloth and his true appearance could not be seen clearly. Ye Bai was sure that it was this monument calling him. The overwhelming equipment behind him also stopped at the same time. The 9 most powerful relics stopped at the front. These equipments all come from the god of war, and are also the highest grade and most valuable equipment in this eternal forest. Already. 3 minutes, as soon as possible. Yang Ju urged. Ye Bai seemed not to have heard anything and said to himself. I want to see this monument. He didn't look at the millions of divine soldiers behind him, or the 9 relics left by the god of war. His eyes were fixed on the stone tablet shrouded in black cloth. Without using the eye of insight, Ye Bai wondered why the other party would call him when he saw this monument. Well. Yang Ju sighed, and his figure emerged from the black mist. He stooped and walked forward slowly. You can watch it if you want. As he spoke, Yang Ju stretched out his skinny palm, clamped the black cloth between his 2 fingers, pulled slightly, and the black cloth fell down. The true face of the stone tablet was revealed in front of Ye Bai. The huge stone tablet is engraved with countless words and names in bright red paint. One person in Zhuojiantang wants to die, and the Wan family wants to live. There is only one thing to do before death, kill the enemy. Qinjian, this battle is dangerous. Everything in my family is with you. Brother, my heart is at peace. Don't miss me, Lu Qinjiao will stay. I'm tired. I want to rest and take care of myself. His eyes scanned the lines, as if he were seeing faces. Ye Bai said blankly, This is a death monument, or, last words. Yang Ju sighed and said. Whenever there is a war in the human race, there are those who are determined to die and charge in front of all the armies. Stop the enemy and destroy the army, kill yourself and become a benevolent person. Looking at the monument of death, Ye Bai seemed to hear the sound of fighting in his ears, saw the iron horses, and saw groups of people, one after another, looking at death as if they were home. The peace under his feet was regained inch by his ancestors with blood and sweat, and they are still guarding peace with their blood. There was a demon god who once made arrogant words, kill, as long as the human race is scared of killing, they will naturally succumb. This monument is the response of the human race. Humans are not afraid of death, so why should they be afraid of death? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 76. A monument to one's will to die, to express one's will through death. Ye Bai has always been curious about what is attracting him to move forward. When he saw this monument, he seemed to know the answer, but he always felt that he had missed something. Ye Bai looked back and forth on the stone tablet, trying to find it as much as possible. This is. Ye Bai looked up at the upper left side of the stone tablet and carved a poem. The poem was surrounded by messages around it. 3/4 of the poem, to be exact. I protect rivers and mountains with my flesh and blood. Even if it turns into a corpse, the soul cannot rest in peace. Kill the monsters with one sword. At the end, there is still a little space, obviously one sentence is missing. This poem is very strange. The first 2 sentences are a person's handwriting, written in regular script. The writing is strong and sharp. In the 3rd sentence, the style suddenly changes to cursive script, which is extremely free and easy, wanton, and sharp. If I guess correctly, these 3 poems were left by the 3 most powerful men. Ye Bai frowned, feeling something was strange. Obviously, the 3rd sentence should be left by Wuhan. But Wuhan is clearly the 2nd most powerful person, and Xiaoao is the 3rd. It is true that they were left by the most powerful ones, but not 3, but 2. Yingju looked at the stone tablet, full of emotion. Nightmare left the first 2 sentences, and Wuhan left the 3rd sentence. The 4th sentence should have been written by Xiaoao. As he said that, Yingju glanced at him from the corner of his eye. The white cloud in the blue sky remained unmoved. Hiss. Ye Bai rubbed his hands and said eagerly, "Did you know that I have obsessive-compulsive disorder?" Yingju, I just found out. Look at this beautiful poem, but it's missing one line, how uncomfortable it is. You want to make up for the poem. Yingju was startled by Ye Bai's thoughts and reminded. When Nightmare left the first 2 sentences, he had just killed a demon god. After Wuhan left a poem behind, he rushed to the front line to defeat the enemy. The 2 most powerful men, when they left poems on the monument of death, risked their lives to survive, putting themselves in an extremely dangerous place. There is no better way than to make one's ambition known through death. Then it's even more time to write. Ye Bai said seriously. Maybe after I finish writing it, Lian Gan will deliver it to my door. Yingju didn't know what to say for a while. The probability of this happening is less than 1 in a billion. In the end, Yingju could only wave his hand in compromise. There is still 1.5 minutes. In such a short time, if you can really complete the last sentence, I will write it for you. The death monument is made of extremely special materials. Even the King of War's attack could only leave some white marks on it. The person who carved the inscription, the weakest one, is the god of war. I want to leave a message on it, but with Ye Bai's current strength, I can't do it, so Yingju can only do it for me. I've already thought of the last sentence. Ye Bai's dantian was filled with anger and he slowly spoke. I swear I won't return it until I break the abyss. Yingju was stunned and blurted out, "You cheated." In such a short period of time, with Ye Bai's cultural level, he could complete the last sentence. Yingju didn't believe it. We all know the difference between illiteracy and education. Ye Bai's behavior was either making up lessons or cheating. Ye Bai nodded. That's right. It's a coincidence. You're tired. Hurry up and finish writing and we'll leave. I have to say that the last sentence touched the heart of Yingju. Black mist rose into the air, and a skinny finger pressed on the monument of death and began to write. In running script, stroke by stroke, Yingju wrote extremely seriously. I vow not to return until I break the abyss. Ye Bai, who was standing on the ground, looked up at the completion of the poem and nodded with satisfaction. I protect rivers and mountains with my flesh and blood. Even if it becomes a corpse, the soul cannot rest in peace. Kill the demons and monsters with one sword. I vow not to return until I break the abyss. Very good, very energetic. After writing the last exclamation mark, Yingju did not stop. Master Ju, time is running out, we have to withdraw. Ye Bai shouted at the top of his lungs. The two poles were reversed, this time it was Ye Bai's turn to urge Yingju to run away. Why are you so anxious? Don't you still need to sign it? Yingju took his time and wrote down a few names at the end of the poem. Nightmare, Wuhan, Shura, Yingju, Lu. His. It seems like something strange has been mixed in. Shameless, you are still shameless, Mr. Ju. Ye Bai felt that he still had a lot to learn about shamelessness. Just after Yingju finished writing the last word, the black cloth that he tore to the ground suddenly rose into the air, kept shrinking, and finally turned into a tattered black cloak, which automatically fell on Ye Bai's shoulders and fluttered in the wind. After Ye Bai was selected by the black cloak, the light of each of the 9 relics left by the god of war dimmed. Not only them, but all the equipment with obsession began to slowly retreat at this moment, not daring to compete with the black cloak. It's okay. The uglier the equipment, the more powerful it is. Ye Bai took a look at the cloak. Apart from being a little torn, it was still in good condition. Putting on the cloak, Ye Bai finally looked like a mage. He secretly warned himself that he must look like a mage in the future and not just hit people with his staff. Cloak of the Nightmare of the strongest battle-damaged version. Seeing the new note that popped up, Ye Bai's eyelids twitched. No wonder those remnants of the heavenly god of war took the initiative to retreat after seeing the cloak. We must maintain absolute respect for the most powerful person, even the god of war. Withdraw. Yingju also merged with Ye Bai at this moment and disappeared into Ye Bai's shadow. The cloak dragged Ye Bai's body and took him away from the death monument and across the eternal forest. The people have gone, but the white clouds remain. White clouds floated above the death monument, and slowly fell after Ye Bai and Yingju left. A Taoist priest in simple clothes stood in front of the monument of death, raising his head like Ye Bai before, looking at the monument. Behind him, 4 shadows appeared one after another. Green, cyan, blue, purple. 4, 5, 6, 7. Ying Qi put his hand on the short blade and whispered, Shura just left. Zioki, shut up. Ying Si stopped in front of Ying Qi and bowed slightly towards the Taoist's back. My subordinate didn't understand the rules and took offense. The Taoist did not turn around, but returned calmly, it doesn't matter. They belong to the most powerful and do not govern each other. You don't need to treat me like this. Since your excellency is the most powerful person, we should naturally be polite. Whatever. The Taoist just looked at the 4 lines of the poem and stood quietly. After a long time, the Taoist spoke again. Give my teacher a message and I will agree to what he wants to do. Thank you, sir. The white clouds fell and the Taoist figure disappeared. The white clouds flew towards the eternal tower again and disappeared from sight. Call. Ying Si gasped for air and spread his palms, which were covered with sweat. He gave Ying Qi a meaningful look and then said, It's all gone, brother Ninth, I will notify you later. There will be a fierce battle soon. Maybe next time we meet, someone's name will be on this monument. Ying 4 patted Ying 7 on the shoulder and left first without saying anything else. Ying Wu was a fat man with a bloated body. He held 2 iron balls in his left hand and walked up to Ying Qi. Xiao Qi, if you want to live longer, you shouldn't mess with some people. For example, 9th brother, the one who lives in the eternal tower. As he spoke, Ying Wu laughed like a barbell again. When he laughed, it was strange. His ears were pressed back against his head, and his nose was slightly turned up. The laughter came from his stomach. 5th brother, I'm still waiting for the day when you become the eldest brother. Ying Qi's lips twitched, not wanting to be outdone, there will be a day. 5th brother, I'm looking forward to it very much. Both parties disliked each other, snorted at the same time, and left. When Bai Yun returned to the Eternal Tower, the Taoist figure appeared at a very high place, sitting cross-legged on the white clouds, overlooking the entire eternal forest. I vow not to return until I break the abyss. Shura, that's interesting. This era of power is different, I don't have much time left. The Taoist murmured to himself. Looking at the eternal forest below, the Taoist raised his hand and flicked the small clock. Dong. The sound of the bell spread throughout the world in an instant. Lasts forever. Outside the eternal forest, Ye Bai had just landed when a loud bell suddenly sounded behind him. Boom. What happened? Ye Bai was startled and said warily, "Abyssal plane invasion." The sound of the bell came suddenly and without any warning. No, he took action. Ye Bai raised his head and looked up at the eternal tower in front of him. The most powerful one, Xiaoao. What is he going to do? The sound of the bell spread throughout the eternal forest, and all the relics shook slightly. Soon, Ye Bai knew what the strongest Xiaoao was going to do. Thousands of pieces of equipment are floating in the sky above the eternal forest. These are all the equipment that followed Ye Bai and were awakened by the powerful seeds. They were suspended in the air, and after a few seconds, they turned into streams of light and dispersed. Most of them were buried in the soil again, waiting for the arrival of the next destined person. The remaining small part rushed towards the many students who were participating in the trial. Zhao Lin had just subdued a long knife, and another knife fell in front of him and was thrust directly into his palm. Zhao Lin was stunned and looked down at the two long knives in his hands. But I use a single sword. Could it be that two knives bring double happiness? For a moment, Zhao Lin was overwhelmed by happiness and at a loss. Lu Sueki had already chosen a ring. But when the bell rang, a golden quill fell in front of her, and the meaning was very clear. This, can we take away two relics? Lu Sueki was stunned on the spot, she had never heard of such a thing happening in the eternal forest. A name flashed in Lu Sueki's mind. Shura. It must be related to Shura. All the students who participated in the trial, like the two of them, had the opportunity to choose the second relic. Ye Bai is no exception. Having left the eternal forest, he watched a golden light streak through the sky and fall into his arms. This is. Ye Bai lowered his head and saw a bronze sword lying quietly in his arms. He looked very familiar. Heavenly King Sword. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 77. Outside the Eternal Forest. Ye Bai wore a black cloak on his shoulders and held the Heavenly King Sword in his arms. Happiness came so suddenly, Ye Bai didn't know how to express his emotions for a while. The Heavenly King Sword, after completing the obsession, can be restored to a stronger grade. Once the sword of the Heavenly God of War, there is no doubt about the grade and strength of the Heavenly King Sword. Only. If it were the full version of the Heavenly King Sword, Ye Bai's current strength would be impossible to control. Nightmare naturally took this into consideration when designing the Eternal Forest. All equipment comes with a seal when leaving the factory, and the level is automatically matched and increases with the user's level. The information about the Heavenly King Sword was clearly visible to Ye Bai. Equipment, Heavenly King Sword, Leave 54. Grade, SS level. Attributes, Strength add 540, Constitution add 300. Physical attack, 1260. Entry. Armor breaking, causes physical damage to the enemy for the first time, ignoring physical defense. The same target will only suffer armor breaking damage once in 12 hours. Permanent, durability is always 100% and will not be damaged. Mighty Heaven, after wearing this sword, it will affect enemies within a 300-meter radius, reducing all attributes by 5%. All attributes of the self increase by 1% minus 15%. The more enemies it affects, the higher the attribute increase reaches. The maximum value reaches 15% when affecting 150 enemies. Obsession: use this sword to kill a War King level monster. Obsessions that can be completed: 9. Completed obsession: 0. As expected of the equipment of the once powerful god of war, it is still so powerful even after being sealed. Yabai couldn't help but sigh. He is also a person who has seen the world, and the power of nature in his hands is not bad. But compared with the Heavenly King's sword, the gap is really big. In terms of basic attributes, the Heavenly King's sword increases strength by 540 and constitution by 300, making Yabai's strength and constitution attributes exceed 1000. At the same time, the entries owned by Tianwang's sword are also very powerful. Yang directly saves Yabai the trouble of repairing weapons. Armor breaking as the first physical attack, it ignores physical defense and can cause tons of burst damage. In itself, as a mage, Yabai took out a sword from his pocket, which was quite outrageous. As a result, he slashed down with one sword, ignoring physical defense, dealing astronomical damage, and killing instantly with one sword. Yabai learned one thing from his short career as a mage. A mage's ability has its limits, and he must become a being that surpasses a mage. I'm no longer a mage, Yingju. Ahem. As for the power of heaven, this entry is very suitable for team battles. When faced with a siege, it can increase all attributes of oneself while reducing all attributes of the enemy. According to the theory of relativity in the Eternal Tower, the decrease in attributes of others is equal to the increase in Yabai's attributes. This is equivalent to Yabai winning twice, a win-win situation. Yabai put the Heavenly King's sword back into his backpack. Since he was once the divine weapon of the god of war, he must be highly recognizable. Once it appears, it will immediately attract the attention of all parties. Considering Yabai's current situation, there is no need to use the Heavenly King's sword in normal battles. The Heavenly King's sword is Yabai's unique move to suppress the enemy. When facing the boss, it has the best effect if he stabs the opponent unexpectedly. Putting away the Heavenly King's sword, Yabai looked at his shoulder. Nightmare's cloak battle-damaged version. The cloak was thrown on the Death Memorial Monument because it was too badly damaged. Nightmare didn't expect that someone would take it away from the Eternal Forest, right? You're so smart. Seeing this note, Yabai's expression changed slightly. He had a bad feeling. Equipment: Nightmare Wind, Leave 1. Grade: SSS grade. Durability: 0.001%. Attributes: Agility add 1. Physical/demon defense, 1. Entry: I am broken, please fix me, I really miss myself as good as ever. Yabai. Master Ju, can you recycle the cloak? It's a limited edition for the strongest. Just exchange it for the equipment of the god of war. I'll suffer a bit. I don't collect garbage here. There were even a few chuckles coming from the darkness. Laughing loudly and wildly. Obviously, Yingju also knew about the situation of the cloak on Yabai's shoulders. How do I fix this? Yabai muttered. Eye of Insight and Shadow 9 gave the same answer. Put in SSS level materials for the cloak to swallow, which can restore durability. SSS grade material, any piece is sky-high price. Yabai actually had something in his hand, the skull of a three-headed hell dog. Master Ju, is it safe around here? It's not safe. Whatever you want to do, stay in the Eternal Tower. Yingju probably guessed what Yabai was thinking and asked. When you cleared the novice dungeon at the SSS level, you should have gotten part of the skeleton of the three-headed hell dog, right? Yes, skull. As Yingju is one of his own, Yabai is still very honest and tries to lie to him as little as possible. Skull, I know. Yangju fell into silence and stopped talking. Today in the Eternal Forest, the situation is special, so Yangju talks a lot. On weekdays, he is mostly silent and follows Yebai. Yebai was not surprised when he returned to silence at this time. He continued to follow the instructions on the ball and rushed to the target location to complete the exercise. Eternal Forest, 4 shadows guarding the Eternal Forest. Shadow 7 welcomed an uninvited guest. Shadow 4. Brother Ninth has a mission for you. Yang Si looked indifferent. In just one day, they met 3 times, more than they had met in the past year. Yang Qi raised his eyebrows slightly and asked. What mission? Brother Ninth asked you to go to the plane of the abyss of hell to find a 3-headed dog king of hell. Except for the skull, all the other bones were brought back intact. The adult 3-headed dog king of hell is a god of war level existence. If all 3 heads are present, they are equivalent to 3 gods of war. If they agree on the same opinion, they will be more difficult to deal with than the 3 gods of war. Yang Qi's voice trembled slightly. If this task were given to other gods of war, they would probably be scolded directly. Doesn't this make it clear that people are going to die? If you are afraid, I can do it for you. Afraid? Yang Qi's voice was so sharp that it broke, and his whole body was extremely excited. I've been holding it here for 3 years, and I'm almost going crazy. If I had known that becoming Shadow 7 would have to guard the Eternal Forest, I might as well have stayed in Shadow 10 and continue to take care of the children. When he said this, Yang Qi was even a little hysterical, obviously full of resentment. At least, I have someone to kill. Yang Qi took a few deep breaths to calm down his excitement and calm down. Where's my guard duty? Unless there are special circumstances, you are not allowed to leave without permission. Even with Yangju's instructions, Yang Qi must make sure someone takes over. Third brother will come back from the battlefield soon. He will heal here and help you guard the Eternal Forest. Shadow 4 warned, you only have 3 days. Clear, when will we set off? Now. Before Yang Si could finish his words, Ziyan rushed out with overwhelming murderous aura, like a glutton that had been hungry for 100 years, full of desire for killing. From the plane of the abyss, I, Shadow 7, am back. Yang Si looked at Yang Qi's back and sighed helplessly. This kid is almost 30 years old, and he's still so average. I'll go back and persuade his parents to have another child. This number is useless. At the foot of the Eternal Tower, there is a sizable town. Yebai followed Yuan Qiu's instructions and found the meeting point, a square covering a large area. In the center of the square, there is a stone monument 100 meters high, which looks familiar. Babai, this way. Before Yebai got close to the square, he heard Zhaolin calling him. Lu Sueki and Zhou Lingwei were also there, but Yebai was missing. Before Yebai got close, Zhaolin hurriedly reminded him. Don't ever mention what you gained in the Eternal Forest, keep it a secret. Yebai. I didn't plan to mention it either. Even if I tell you, a heavenly king's sword and a battle-damaged version of the cloak, who would believe it? No one will take the initiative to tell others, right? As soon as Yebai finished speaking, everyone looked at Zhaolin at the same time. Okay, the IQ depression has appeared. Although Zhaolin lowered the average IQ of the CCF group, he increased the average age of the CCF group. Very good, this is very Zhaolin. Lu Sueki added, now everyone knows that Zhaolin harvested 2 knives in the Eternal Forest. Good for you. Yebai smiled and shook his head, but it doesn't matter. The special training in the summer camp is an elimination system. In order to ensure that you are not eliminated, you must go all out in various tests. In other words, our trump card cannot be hidden. It makes no difference whether others know it or not. Hearing Yebai's words, Lu Sueki blinked her eyes and smiled without saying a word. Trump card? She seems to be able to hide a little. What Lusweki didn't know was, she does have a few tricks up her sleeve. Yebai can hide hundreds of millions of trump cards. After being comforted by Yebai, Zhao originally depressed mood became even more depressed when he thought that he would soon be eliminated. This aspect of Xiao was finally understood by Yebai. A few people chatted for a while, and the countdown on the ball ended. Time is up. Zhou's spirit machine looked towards the other end of the square, his posture upright and his expression extremely serious. What time has it come? SHH. Lusweki made a quiet gesture and whispered. A legion is returning from the abyss. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge portal suddenly opened at the end of the square. A shadow broke out of the portal first. Safety. The shadow dropped these words and flew towards the east of the eternal forest at an extremely fast speed without stopping at all. Dong dong dong. The ground began to shake. From the portal, rows of soldiers walked out and broke into the square with neat steps. Boom. Boom. Every step they take is like stepping on people's hearts, making people's hearts tighten. Everyone's face is like a flat lake, they are magnificent, their bodies are full of bloody aura, and their murderous aura is soaring to the sky. The movements are uniform and the orders are prohibited. Many boys' eyes were fixed, and Zhao couldn't take his eyes away. He was extremely shocked by the scene he had never seen before. Yebai looked forward, and a line of soldiers passed by him. There was also light shining in his eyes. How magnificent, the master of hundreds of battles. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 78. On the gathering square. Rows of soldiers walked past, with a chilling air that made people feel frightened. They all moved in unison, but moved at an extremely fast speed. In less than a few minutes, they all walked out of the portal. Behind the soldiers is the general. Wearing the uniform of a general, each general has a number written on his shoulder, which represents the corresponding rank. The medal worn on his chest records the establishment to which he belongs and the military exploits he has made. At the same time, as soon as they walked out of the portal, they immediately found their subordinates and gathered them in order. The originally huge formation of soldiers was accurately cut into dozens of small square formations in an instant. Compared with soldiers, the number of generals is much smaller. In 30 seconds, all the soldiers will be driven out of the portal, and the troops will be organized. A set of operations will be performed smoothly without any pause. After the general, comes the king of war. Boom. A giant over 2 meters tall walked out of the portal, carrying 3 heads on his shoulders. 2 of the 3 heads belonged to monsters from the abyss. Their faces were covered in blood, and they were holding their heads on the shoulders of giants. As soon as he appeared, all the soldiers in the phalanx immediately burst into cheers. The little giant strode forward, and with every step he took, the square shook slightly. Taking 3 steps and 2 steps at a time, the little giant came to the central stone monument and smashed the 2 heads on the ground. The little giant roared, his voice like thunder. Behead the 2 deputy commanders and 2 demon heads of the Mad Demon Legion subordinate to the 4th demon god as a sacrifice to our ancestors. Hearing this, Yebai and others who were watching looked shocked and their pupils tightened. The deputy commander is at least a warrior at the level of a king. Actually, he was beheaded just like that. The words of the little giant instantly ignited the enthusiasm of the soldiers, and they burst into shocking cheers again. Wind. 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 After throwing down the head, the little giant stepped aside. Behind him, a heroic and cold-faced female war king walked out of the teleportation array, holding a lantern in her hand. In the lantern, 3 weak flames were burning, and a gust of wind seemed to blow them out. The female war queen threw the lantern next to the devil, with a cold voice. Behead the 3 deputy commanders of the Furious Legion under the 4th demon god, and 3 strands of their demon souls as sacrifices to our ancestors. Not only did she kill 3 war kings, she even pulled out the enemy's soul, trapped it in a lantern, and burned it in a small fire. In the formation, they roared again. Wind. 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 After the 2 war kings walked out, a majestic figure appeared in front of the portal. The armor all over his body was broken and hung messily on his body, like pieces of metal thrown into a broken fishing net. The helmet obscured his face, making it difficult to see clearly, and he held a broken knife in his hand. When this majestic figure walked out of the portal was instantly closed, and the passage to the abyssal plane was also cut off. Under everyone's gaze, the stalwart figure walked slowly to the stone monument. Everywhere he went, students exclaimed in surprise. This. The injuries on the back of this majestic figure were extremely serious, the flesh and blood were bloody, and there was even demonic energy coming out. It's hard to imagine what kind of horrific battles he went through. Standing in front of the stone tablet, the man bent slightly, and every movement seemed to exhaust all his strength and affect the wounds all over his body. He lowered a small section of his arm. Fight the leader of the Furious Legion, the subordinate of the 4th demon god, and cut off one of his hands as a sacrifice to our ancestors. Legion commander. Although they were already prepared in their hearts, everyone couldn't help but breathe tight when they heard these 3 words. That is a god of war level existence. It's enough to fight the opponent without dying, but to be able to cut off an arm. The strong human race is so terrifying. After putting down his arms, the man turned around and looked at the phalanx in front of him. The eyes in the phalanx also looked at him, their eyes full of enthusiasm and admiration. The man spoke slowly, his voice was neither too loud nor too quiet, but it could be heard clearly by everyone. His voice was mellow and somewhat elegant. In this battle, the Fenglan army first defeated the Mad Demon army, and then defeated the Furious army, killing 12,000 enemies and injuring countless others. We look forward to a great victory in this battle. After the man finished speaking, all the people from the Fenglan Legion roared in unison. Big victory! Big victory! Wind! 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 As soon as the man raised his hand, all sounds were immediately suppressed and the square became quiet. Deputy Commander Zo, please count the gains from this battle and register your military exploits. Right, Deputy Corps Commander, count the damage caused by this battle and arrange for the wounded. The 2 previous war kings responded at the same time, promise. The dead leave their names on the memorial tablet. Disband. After saying that, the man took the lead and took off, flying deep into the eternal forest. In this battle, the Fenglan Legion had a good performance and suffered huge casualties. 3,000 robes will sleep forever in the abyss, and there will be 3,000 more names on the death monument. After the man left, many soldiers from the Fenglan Legion, led by their own generals, poured into a small town not far away. In the empty square, only the students who participated in the special training of the summer camp were left, still immersed in the previous shock and unable to extricate themselves for a long time. Ahem, can you hear me? A man appeared in front of the monument with a microphone. Classmates, come closer. Hundreds of people gathered in front of the stone monument and looked at each other curiously, not knowing what to do. My surname is Lin, and I am the chief instructor of this summer camp. You can call me Teacher Lin. First of all, I want to congratulate you for passing the first level of the summer camp special training. The number of people participating in the summer camp in this batch, 672. The number of people passing customs, 466. The pass rate was close to 70%, exceeding our expectations. Upon hearing this number, Zhao Lin paled slightly and looked at Ye Bai and Lu Sueki beside him. 30% of people were eliminated. Zhao Lin did not expect that their CCF combination, which should be at the bottom among all genius seeds, could still pass 100%. Luck, it should be luck. Zhao Lin didn't think much and continued to concentrate on listening to Instructor Lin's speech. What you saw earlier was our human Fenglin Legion returning from the abyss with a great victory. Teacher Lin smiled and said slowly. I believe you have also noticed that after the portal is opened, the soldiers come out first, followed by the general, then the king, and then the god of war. The students nodded. It was indeed true. It's like this when you retreat. When you charge, it's the god of war who takes the lead, the king of war, the generals, and the soldiers. Professor Lin's words made many students' eyes widen. My human race has been fighting for hundreds of years, and the strong will come first. Instructor Lin said every word, sonorously and forcefully. Whenever there is a big battle, the strongest will enter the camp of death, and the god of war will charge forward. Those who are timid in the face of battle will be dismissed from their posts on the spot and will never be re-employed. Students, the forest you walked through before is the resting place of hundreds of millions of heroic souls of our human race. Instructor Lin introduced the origin of the eternal forest in a few words. Many of the female students had red eyes, while the male students clenched their fists, their knuckles turned white, and their back molars creaked. They wished they could rush to the abyss to fight monsters. 300 rounds of fighting. The equipment in your hands is the relic of hundreds of millions of heroic souls. The obsession you carry is the obsession of billions of heroic souls. In the future, the home you protect is their home, and it is also our home. You remember, 90 years ago, since the day the abyssal plane invaded Blue Star, the human race has entered a state of war. So far, the human race has not lifted the wartime status, no. Instructor Lin's eyes swept over everyone's face and stayed there for a few seconds. There seemed to be stars rising and falling in his eyes, and he almost growled and said, You are in the age of war, and you have only enjoyed a moment of peace protected by your ancestors. Do not regard false peace as eternal peace, and do not regard the baby's cradle as your hometown in this life. This world is extremely cruel and cold, and the monsters in the darkness will not give up any opportunity to invade Blue Star. Instructor Lin's words hit everyone's heart hard, giving them endless shock. As the ancients said, be prepared for danger in times of peace. Since 90 years ago, the human race has never been in peace. Every minute and every second, it is struggling on the edge of life and death. The war between humans and the abyssal plane has never ended. The bloody battle will end until one party completely surrenders or dies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 79. Assembly Square. Instructor Lin announced that today's exercise has come to an end. Each student will have a corresponding senior or sister for one-on-one tutoring. Every 4 people will be assigned a teaching assistant. The tutoring seniors and senior sisters will explain the specific content to you. As soon as Instructor Lin finished speaking, Zhao Lin began to look around, looking for the target. Zhou Lingzhu looked at Lu Sueki and said with a smile, I will be responsible for your coaching during this period of special training. Excuse me, senior. No trouble, after the summer camp is over, you can consider applying to Taito University. Professor Hu of the summoning department is a very good person, and he is also one of the top summoning experts in the Dragon Kingdom. He is especially good at cultivating avian summoned beasts. Zhou Lingzi introduced it seriously and began to recruit talents for his alma mater. Ever since he learned about Lu Sueki's S-level talent, Zhou Lingwei was certain that this little girl's future achievements would not be worse than his own. S-level talent, the hard work of a war king, plus Lu Sueki's own personality. As long as he is alive, the war king cannot escape. I will think about it. When she said this, Lu Sueki glanced at Ye Bai. Obviously, wherever Ye Bai applies for the exam, she is more inclined to go. Zhou Lingzhu also noticed this and did not continue to persuade, but instead greeted the three of them. "Let's go, I'll take you to the dormitory area first. Your two seniors are also waiting for you there. Nanjiang No. 3 Middle School is in Zone C, and Nanjiang No. 2 Middle School in the same city as you is in Zone A. You are not allowed to move around at will between the various areas, and the control within the summer camp is very strict. If you violate the rules, you may be disqualified, or you may be sent to the law enforcement team." Zhou Lingwei first beat a few people, and then said, "But don't worry. I usually have normal classes and daily life, and my seniors will help to watch over me, so I won't violate any forbidden rules. By the way, you have a regular exchange meeting with No. 2 Middle School. Once a week, the bottom 10% will be eliminated." Under the leadership of Zhou Lingwei, the three came to the so-called Area C. Ye Bai also met the senior assigned to him, Feng Dong. A man with a thin face and piercing eyes. The first time he saw Ye Bai, he was so excited that he came up and shook hands with Ye Bai warmly. "Junior Ye, I miss you so much." Ye Bai looked confused. "Senior Feng, do we know each other?" "Do not know." Feng Dong shook his head like a rattle and said sincerely, "But I know that meeting you, my junior, is the luckiest thing in my life." Ye Bai. "Master Ju, wake up, there is a prophet here, give him a knife." Feng Dong's set of operations left Ye Baiun in a fog and Monk Zhang couldn't touch his head. "Feng Dong, don't go too far." Zhou Lingzi couldn't stand it anymore and scolded him coldly. "Is this your attitude to teach your juniors?" Sorry, I'm just so happy." Feng Dong raised his hands and apologized one after another. "Junior Ye, I don't mean any offense." Zhou Lingzi briefly explained to Ye Bai why Feng Dong was so happy. Ye Bai tried to understand and smooth out the logic. "You mean, Senior Feng Dong's credits are linked to my final ranking in the summer camp?" "Right. The worse I perform, the lower his credits will be." "Right. Then what makes him happy?" Ye Bai didn't understand even more. Feng Dong graduated from Modu University, one of the top 2 universities in China. Logically speaking, it should be the king of scrolls. Why is he so happy when his credits are low? Not to be ashamed of, but to be proud of. Could it be that King Wan has evolved to the ultimate level and become the king of bastards? Feng Dong cleared his throat. "Junior, you don't know something." "Senior, I am only a freshman and want to study in college for a few more years. I have already failed 4 subjects this semester. As long as I also fail the summer camp internship class, I will be able to repeat the grade." "Zhaolin, Ye Bai. Wait a minute, you said repeating a grade, could it be because?" Ye Bai's face changed slightly, and he figured out the reason. Zhou Lingwei was at the side and revealed ruthlessly. "He just wants to be in the same class as Shura and catch the biggest wave of dividends in the era of supreme power. Shura appears in this world, this is the information that everyone knows. Although I don't know Shura's true identity. But according to the growth trajectory of the 3 strongest men in the past, Shura will most likely enter university, or a top university. Only there are the top resources that can help Shura grow quickly. It is a great honor to be in the same class as the strongest. Of course, there will be unexpected benefits." Feng Dong said with emotion. "Junior, you don't know that from the first day Shura appeared in this world, both Modu University and Imperial University were in chaos. 2 top universities. Freshman and sophomore students began to crazily ask for leave, drop out of school, and some even wanted to drop out and retake the exam. Their purpose is very clear. Use every possible means to be in the same class as Shura. Those who were usually kings suddenly transformed into kings of bastards. Even the matter of being a gangster is starting to get complicated. You should be as perfunctory as possible about homework. You should be late for class if you can, and don't go if you can't. I wish I could wait in line to give gifts to the teacher so that my grades would be even worse so that I could repeat the grade and become classmates with Shura. There was even an old professor who was so angry that he was hospitalized directly. Brush your grades. It is impossible to earn grade points in this life. Spend all your energy to lower your credits and try your best to make yourself repeat the grade. This is the only way out. Feng Dong is also one of them. Before coming to the summer camp, Feng Dong had already failed 4 classes. If he failed one more class, he would have to repeat the grade. So, when Feng Dong drew the C-level talent Ye Bai, he seemed to have won the ticket to be classmates with Shura, and he was extremely excited. Looking around, in the entire summer camp, who else's talent is worse than C-level? Oh, there really is an F-level, so that's okay. Feng Dong, let me remind you, don't be happy too early. Zhou Lingzi was obviously very dissatisfied with Feng Dong's attitude and said coldly. Ye Bai must be able to persist until the end of the summer camp special training, then you can get credits. If Ye Bai is eliminated early, you will be assigned a new junior student and want to fail the exam, haha. Feng Dong nodded, that's true. He looked at Ye Bai, his eyes extremely hot. So, junior, in order for seniors to become Shura's classmates, you must work hard until the end of the summer camp. Ye Bai. Then, I'll try my best. It doesn't matter, senior, for the sake of my own future, I will spare no effort to support you. Feng Dong patted his chest and assured. If Ye Bai leaves, where will he find junior students with C-level talents? If he is not lucky and assigns him a junior with S-level talent, Feng Dong's plan will be completely ruined. Just as a few people were communicating, a burly man walked over, with a typical Western face. The strong man looked at Zhao Lin and said in a deep voice, "Fight, a sophomore at Shanghai University, majoring in the heavy armed warrior department. Hello, Senior Feet, my name is Zhao Lin." Looking at Zhao Lin, who was as thin as a monkey, Feet frowned in dissatisfaction. "You are too skinny. I feel like I can knock you away with just a stamp of my foot. How could there be such a thin warrior?" With that said, Feet took out a half-person high steak from the storage space and handed it to Zhao Lin. "Your mission today is to eat it. If you can't finish eating, you are not allowed to enter the Eternal Tower." Hiss. Zhao Lin took a deep breath and began to doubt life. How many cheeks would be lost after eating such a big piece of steak? Are you going to eat so much at every meal from now on? Food? Who told you this is dinner? This is midnight snack. Zhao Lin. As soon as they met, Feet taught Zhao Lin a lesson. How is a good warrior developed? Start by learning to eat. Fit was the last to arrive, but was the first to get in shape and had already started training Zhao Lin. Zhou Lingwei pulled Lu Sueki away, and Feng Dong also took Ye Bai aside. "Junior, your task this week is very difficult, you must be mentally prepared." Feng Dong has already explained the rules of the summer camp. Each week, there will be assigned tasks. The better the task is completed, the higher the score you get. This score will determine the ranking of the final combat test. People with high ratings have the right to choose their opponents, and people with low ratings cannot refuse. The final elimination list is produced based on the combination of fighting results and this week's task scores. In other words, in order not to be eliminated, you must complete this week's tasks better. Feng Dong analyzed carefully. In this way, you can increase your total score and gain the initiative in the final combat test. Indeed. Ye Bai couldn't help but be curious, what is the mission? Ye Bai was very curious about the extremely difficult task that Feng Dong said. Feng Dong said extremely seriously. Clear the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors of the Eternal Tower. Harvesting a piece of raw ore at the same time requires a minimum grade of D and a minimum weight of 10 kilograms. Ye Bai. 3, 4, 5, and 6 floors. He cleared it all in one go last night. As for raw ore, it is indeed a problem. In the mysterious mine, the lowest grade is B grade. Where can Yabai find D grade raw ore? After being silent for a long time, Yabai jumped out and said, I really didn't expect this week's mission to be so difficult. Don't be afraid, Junior. Feng Dong patted Yabai on the shoulder and said comfortingly. I'll take care of everything. Just focus on completing the level. If you have any trouble, just come to me. Thank you, Senior. It's okay, one of us will follow the other. Senior, if Shura and I become classmates, I will never forget your contribution, Junior. Come on, I'll treat you to a midnight snack. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 80. Summer Camp, Area C. After supper, we returned to the dormitory. Feng Dong handed a complete 3, 4, 5, 6 layer strategy to Yabai and told him, Junior, this guide is a bit outdated. Because of Shura, these 4 levels have been reset, and the difficulty should be reduced a lot. I'll get you a new guide tomorrow. You can try the 3rd level today. Okay. Yabai accepted the guide and said sincerely. Senior Feng, it's awkward for us seniors and juniors to shout like that. You can just call me Brother Bai. Feng Dong. This guy is interesting. Feng Dong was also very cheerful and didn't care about these details. Okay, Brother Bai. I will be classmates with Shura in the future, but it all depends on you, Brother Bai. If you don't understand anything, please contact me anytime. After Feng Dong left, Yabai was the only one left in the dormitory. The configuration of the summer camp is very luxurious, with single dormitories, a 24-hour canteen, well-trained doctors, instructors drawn from major legions, etc. Yabai had been busy all day, and he hadn't stopped since the afternoon. However, this trip was quite fruitful. In addition to writing poems on the memorial tablet, Yabai also received a Heavenly King sword. Well, that's all I gained, it's gone. Thinking of this, Yabai caught a glimpse of the tattered cloak from the corner of his eye and couldn't help but hold his forehead. This is not bringing back a piece of equipment, this is bringing back a gold-swallowing beast. With SSS level materials, Yabai only had a skull in his hand and nothing else. I can only think of a way to buy it from the wolf nest. There is definitely no way to get it through ordinary means. Yabai didn't forget that Xuemeng still owed him a large bounty that he hadn't paid yet. Reporting on the list of senior members of the 4th demon cult, reporting on Li and Lion Can, these two things added together, the bounty would be an astronomical figure. Yabai risked his life to obtain this information. He deserves this, not a penny less. Yabai calculated the accounts on his fingers. Wilhen still owes me 2 skill books and an opportunity to forge equipment. Regarding the forging of equipment, Yabai now has new ideas. Now that he has the Heavenly King sword and the power of nature, what Yabai lacks most right now is armor. However, compared to weapons, armor requires more consumables. Especially considering Yabai's life-saving character, he couldn't wait to build a set of SSS level armor. After the inventory was completed, Yabai counted the supplies on hand. What needs to be developed most are the 2 mysterious mines. Thinking of this, Yabai lowered his head and looked at the shadow. Master Ju, is it safe to enter the Eternal Tower now? You are going to the trading secret realm, no, you have your own space. Yingju reacted immediately, her voice trembled slightly, and asked. Could it be the legendary mysterious mine? Older gingers are more spicy. Yingju guessed the truth in an instant. Yabai nodded and asked. Is this something strange? It's not a question of whether it's unusual or not, it's really that. Yingju sighed and continued. No one has ever harvested the mysterious mine before you. Just mention whatever you need, the most professional mining equipment, professionals to help you explore? This isn't appropriate. Yabai was a little hesitant. There were already Nanhe miners in the exclusive space, so there wouldn't be much problem with production capacity. The top-notch ore mining equipment is a strategic material in all major channels of Blue Star. It is strictly controlled by the Ministry of Defense, and not a single part will be leaked out. The human race needs these mining equipment to mine ore in the abyss plane for military needs. If these devices fall into the hands of demon gods, they can also use them to mine ore, and in turn use the ore to cause harm to humans. Yabai alone would not be able to buy these equipment without using his identity as Shura. It's all free. Yabai originally planned to scold Yingju loudly. However, Yingju really gave too much. Master Ju, let's make an agreement, there won't be any fraud, right? I will trick no one but you. Yingju said slowly, in what follows, I will formally negotiate with you on behalf of Shadow and Wolf's Nest. You can choose to cooperate or refuse, it's your freedom. We are willing to provide mining equipment for free, pay miners labor fees, hire specific NPCs for mining, and even be responsible for subsequent smelting work. In exchange for the right of first refusal for your ore output, the purchase price is guaranteed not to be lower than the recent market average. You can keep the high-grade ore for your own use, as long as you ensure a minimum output of 3,000 tons of raw ore per day. The contract is signed in the trading secret realm and witnessed by the secret realm elves. We accept short-term contracts of 7 days. If there is no objection when it expires, the contract can be automatically renewed for 7 days. Yabai didn't think about it for too long, nodded and said, I can accept this condition. No matter how you look at it, Yabai will not suffer from Yingju's proposal. Even if Yabai changes his mind halfway through the cooperation, the partnership can be ended after 7 days. As for Yingju, his perspective of thinking about the problem is completely different from Yabai. Before the mysterious mines appeared, humans had to mine in the abyss if they wanted to obtain high-quality ore. When mining ore, at least 2 legions are required to be stationed and guarded, and at the same time they will face huge defensive pressure. It's not just a matter of consuming manpower and material resources, but also the blood of countless people. In contrast, humans only need to spend money to purchase from Yabai. After so many years of practicing defense, I lack everything except money. If that doesn't work, you can give Yabian on the spot, as much as you want. Even the gold coins of the Eternal Tower, the human race has mastered the method of forging. For such a small matter as printing money, as long as it doesn't die, just print it to death. Yabai exchanged the raw ore for money, and then converted it into the resources he needed. Mutual benefit, everyone gets what he needs. These are the parameters of the most advanced mining equipment of the human race. You can take it and study it first. A document appeared in front of Yabai's desk. Okay, I'll take you to the mysterious mine to see. Bringing something good to look at when squatting is an essential quality for a mature man. By the way, how big is the mysterious mine you harvested? Only then did Yingju notice that he had forgotten to ask the most important thing. It's not big, just 75 million tons. After saying that, Yabai disappeared, leaving only his shadow alone. Adhering to his excellent habit of pretending to be cool and then running away, Yingju murmured. 75 million tons. If they were all C-grade ores, they would be worth the total output of 10 medium abyssal planes. Hiss. I forgot to ask this guy for a photo. Mysterious mine. Yabai appeared in his exclusive space, and the miner leader immediately greeted him. Boss, we are ready to work at any time. No rush, take a look at this equipment first and estimate the production capacity. Yabai handed the corresponding parameters to the miner leader, and several miners immediately gathered around to analyze them together. A few minutes later, the miner leader came up with the results of the discussion. Boss, if what is written here is true. We estimate that the daily output will initially be 10,000 tons. When the output stabilizes, it can be maintained between 30,000 tons and 50,000 tons. With a daily production of 50,000 tons, it takes more than 4 years to dig out 2 mysterious mines in 1,500 days. Very good, the equipment will be delivered soon. Sharpen the knife and cut wood, and we can start work again when the time comes. Yabai asked the miners to put their work aside and ask about life matters instead. Is there enough food and water? There's enough water, just food. A look of embarrassment first appeared on the miner leader's face. There's only enough for 1 meal left. If you squeeze it in a bit, you can handle it for a few days. Yabai frowned and asked. I remember I purchased food for 1,500 people. Boss, the main reason is that it is so edible that it escaped from the mine, and we didn't want to drive it away. The leader of the miners walked back with Yabai to reveal the mystery. A huge lizard was lying next to the mine, snorting lazily at the moon. It was very excited to see Yabai. Wabababu. Wabababu. Seeing Brother Lizard again, Yabai was in a good mood. When he was in the mine, Brother Lizard helped him bring back 50 L of water, which was of great significance. Okay, you will live here from now on. Although the lizard brother is very good at eating, he is friendly to people and can communicate with Yabai. Brother Lizard's own strength is not weak. After being lifted from petrification, he is comparable to a warrior. If something goes wrong while mining, the giant lizard can save people immediately. As an earth-type creature, the underground is simply its paradise, otherwise it would not live in an abandoned mine, and finally encountered Medusa. With the help of the Eye of Insight, Yabai was able to communicate normally with the giant lizard. Brother, watch carefully, this situation belongs to our family. Giant lizard, Abba Abba. After solving the giant lizard problem, Yabai warned before leaving. I will solve the food problem as soon as possible. Eat 3 meals a day on time. If you do well in the future, we will add midnight snacks. 12 o'clock. The Eternal Tower is open. Welcome to Eternal Core City. After entering the Eternal Core City, Yabai went straight to the wolf lair. Sure enough, Xuemeng was in the wolf lair, and the young lady named Diamond from before was also there. Coming. Xuemeng was also waiting for Yabai. Looking at the familiar mask, he recognized the other person's true identity at a glance. Come, follow me. Etc. Yabai interrupted Xuemeng's spell casting. I heard that all purchases at the Wolf's Nest last night were free. There is such a thing. To celebrate Shura passing 4 levels in a row, all consumption is free. Xuemeng was surprised. Why do you ask this? As a Shura himself, I didn't even enjoy the benefits of Shura's free bill. This made Yabai very unbalanced. Just like Yabai's second place result in the imitation Shura competition. What is this? Adhere to the principle that you can't suffer any loss in whatever you eat? Yabai asked confidently, have you ordered the 5,000 single meals I asked you to order for me last night? Xuemeng. Did you, let me order it? No? Think again. Xuemeng took a few deep breaths and turned to look at Diamond. Prepare 5,000 single meals for him. That money. Butterfly dream is very realistic. You can have 5,000 meals for one person. Who will pay for it? You can't. Take yesterday's free bill and buy today's meal. Xuemeng lowered his voice to prevent Yabai from hearing. Charge it to my father's account.